We already learned that how we can leverage Azure Cloud Storage to store our unstructured data. Just to recap, in case you have any kind of file format, for example, text file, any kind of media file, or even a database, you can store any kind of data directly in Azure Blob Storage. Because it does not understand what kind of file type it is, instead of that, it just understands 0 and 1. So all the data can store as a part of raw data or a binary format, which is 0 and 1. Similarly, you can also use Azure File Storage to store any kind of file straight, not a database, but a file straight in Azure File Storage, and you can share that file within your website or in your application straight securely. But we already talked about all these things as a part of unstructured data. But guys, in today's video, we will talk about more on structured data, what that is, and to give you much more understanding on that as well. So guys, my name is Harshanga, and in this video, we will talk about Azure Storage, which actually we covered two different kind of storage. One is Azure Table Storage, and second is Azure Queue Storage. But just to give you much more details about these two kind of storage, how we can use Azure Storage or Azure Cloud Storage for that, we need to also understand that what exactly the meaning of SQL Server and e-commerce websites. I'm pretty sure you guys are definitely aware that where we can use SQL Server and e-commerce. E-commerce means any kind of website where we can purchase things straight and easy way. But how we can leverage and how we can use table storage and queue storage, and why we talk about Microsoft SQL and e-commerce, let me give you even more information. So guys, let's begin. Before to begin to understand more about Azure Table Storage and Azure Queue Storage in terms of theoretical part, let me at least take you back to the storage account where you can find these two kind of storage. Absolutely, it is the same place where you can find a blob storage and the file storage under storage account. So on the Azure portal, you can simply go to storage account or simply click on recent resources, which we have created in our last video of the storage, that is our storage account. And in under storage account, you can find table storage and queue storage. Now before to understand, as I mentioned, we need to also gather a little bit information about SQL Server and e-commerce websites so that I can try to correlate both table and queue storage. But to give you more understanding about these two, we are not going to use Azure Portal for that. We are going to use another tool which is called Azure Storage Explorer. You can also download it free of cost, and let me try to also give you the link in the description. If you don't find link in the description, please ask. I can share with you directly, or you can simply go to Google or Bing and you can find a download link for Azure Storage Explorer. Microsoft SQL Server and e-commerce website. I'm sure you guys have a laugh at me and say, hey Harsh, we already know what SQL Server is because we are mostly using every day, and you will definitely are using e-commerce websites every day because you purchase these things on these websites. I get it and I understand. But exactly guys, for today's video, we are talking about the table storage and the queue storage. So I need to give you at least, the basic information about the SQL Server so that we can, correlate these SQL Server and e-commerce website with our today's, the storage we are talking about in this video. So let's talk about the very first one, that is Microsoft SQL Server. And I don't need to tell you what exactly the meaning of SQL Server. It is actually structured query language, and exactly that's the word. We are talking about in Azure Table Storage is all about a structured database. So you can directly relate Microsoft SQL Server to table storage. But remember, the table storage is not a SQL Server. It's actually NoSQL. That's why whenever you try to read articles or even you go to the Microsoft website, you can find Azure Table Storage is directly related to NoSQL because it is not a SQL server, but somehow it is using a SQL level kind of pattern to store your information in table format. Don't worry, I will show you as an example or even as a practical. So just stay there with me. But to understand more about the SQL, how it actually works, you already know, but let me give you some basic information once again. The Microsoft SQL Server is actually a software which actually a kind of a relational database which store and retrieve information requested or based on the application you have created. For example, I have created one application, or even I have created an website. In that website, I'm asking users to add their first name, last name, contact detail, and email ID. As soon as these users type in those information, it actually go to the SQL Server and stored in one place. Exactly the same way you can use Azure Table Storage as well. So don't worry, I also have created those tables for you, and I'm going to share it right after we understand about the e-commerce. But the point before to jump on the e-commerce, I need to make you understand that why not SQL Server? Absolutely, I do agree, and I am definitely is not against Microsoft SQL Server here. But the point here to mention is, in terms of small and medium organizations, or even a bigger organization, in terms of if they are managing their databases, they need to purchase the infrastructure, yes. Apart from that, they also need to purchase the license for the SQL Server so that they can take all the advantages of the features offered by Microsoft SQL Server. But the point here is the cost. Check the cost here. If you purchase an enterprise version for SQL Server 2017, it costs approximate $14,256, which is actually a huge amount if you are trying to start your business. Similarly, if you have a standalone per core, you can need to spend, actually you can go for this, but again you need to spend $4,000 for this. Plus infrastructure, storage, CPU, and one dedicated person who is managing all those things. Actually, I also find an interesting link actually which I mentioned here as a source, and let me directly take you there. Actually, in this source you can find out how to license SQL Server and all sort of thing. But basically the point here to mention is the SQL Server pricing. So you can find out in this page, there's an enterprise version, standalone per server, where you can have a client access license. You have a developer version, which is a free of cost download at the moment. Web version. I don't want to explain all these things. The point here is the price. But if we talk about, guys, Azure Table Storage, it actually comes with a subscription. As soon as you purchase a subscription, you can create a Azure Storage account, and you can also have multiple Azure Table Storages. So you can take those advantages of these storage and store your information. As I mentioned, I have created one of the example for you, and I will share with you very soon, right after we understand e-commerce. So let's go to our second point. I hope you get my point here about the SQL Server. But don't worry, I'm not against SQL. I want to repeat this again because maybe developers are watching and they said, hey Harsh, why are you telling that you should go for Azure Table Storage? We are happy with the SQL Server. Please enjoy SQL Server. I have not a problem, but yeah, this is for those people who would like to start their business and they think that they would like to store their information in the cloud. So I think it's really a great way in terms of you just need to manage your storages or your table, actually not a storage, it's just a table. So it's really a great way. The second thing is the e-commerce. So e-commerce, yes guys, we are talking about here the websites like Amazon.com, Walmart.com, eBay.com, where you can purchase lots of things every day. And why we are talking about e-commerce website here? Because I'm trying to relate e-commerce directly with queue storage. Let me put you one example here. So imagine in India we have a Diwali festival, or even we have any other festival. Even in US or any other country, in case we have a Black Friday or a very great festivals in US, I can imagine lots of people would like to purchase lots of things during that time. So if a server is currently receiving millions requests, it may happen that your backend server may crash, or it can also delay on getting processed all the requests at the same time. So to avoid those kind of congestion or overload on the back end, the queue storage comes into the picture. Because as soon as these consumers are purchasing things, so it goes to the queue storage first and rely and stored on those queue storages first. Yes, it will not actually, break the communication with the backend. It will just say to us, hey, or the end user is currently watching on their screen, hey, please wait for some time. Your order is currently in processing and or it is waiting for the processed. So similar kind of messages we can see. So we just need to wait for a couple of seconds, and during that time backend server is currently trying to process already received requests and verify and make sure their purchasing has been completed. Once backend server say, hey, I'm free, the queue storage send more requests to the backend server and try to process those requests again. So it's really a great way you can use a queue storage for that. But again, it can be done by the developer, not by the administrator in general. So guys, this is the basic information about Azure Table Storage and Azure Queue Storage. Now we need to understand how we can access these two storage and how we can correlate what we just discussed, which is Microsoft SQL Server and e-commerce, with these two kind of storage. Let me show you. As I mentioned, if you need to understand Azure Table Storage and Azure Queue Storage, we are not going to go back to Azure portal and try to understand that. We are going to use instead Azure Storage Explorer. So guys, if you would like to understand and learn more about it, you can simply go to this particular website, Azure Storage Explorer from Microsoft, and you can simply download your package. And as soon as you download the package, run the package, give your Azure account information, and you can simply log in with all the information right there. As soon as you logged in, you need to go to your storage account to learn more about queue storage and table storage. And there we have created one storage account, which right here, and you can find all sort of storage types inside this place. Blob storage, file storage or file shares, queue storage, and table storage. Let's try to talk about first on the table storage. So if I just expand the table storage, you can find multiple table storage already been created inside this particular storage account. And right here, I have created manually one of the storage, which name is Harsh Arena Test. In this one, I have also created a table where I'm asking people names, state, address, and the contact. So currently, if I just double click, you can find all sort of entries which I'm asking from the people. If you would like to add more information, you can also add like this and add information as per your requirement. Email address. So as soon as you type this email address, just okay, so I think is not accepting that one. Yeah, without space. So just update, and as soon as it is being updated, you can see an entry right here. If you wish to change from entry from here to the third or the second, simply click on columns option, and you can drag or select this to move up to as a second one, and it actually drag information here. We can also type this information straight in the email address. For example, Harsh Arena 86@gmail.com. As soon as user type this information and save those details, it will go to the storage, the table storage, and it's stored here. Now, if you have multiple entries and you would like to know how many entries are there, you can simply run the query. And as soon as you run the query, it will show you there's one entry, and obviously number of entries matter here. So I think you get the point. Just like your SQL Server, here in the Azure Table Storage, you can also can store all those of information straight in the table format. But again, the developers need to create REST APIs for that, so that they can directly connect to their website or their application, and it can store all those of information whenever the user logged in and typed their information. So I'm sure you get the point here, that how you can leverage and use table storage for your own purposes. However, let's move on to the queue storage, which is again pretty interesting and very good actually, in terms of if you are managing a huge database for e-commerce website. So here as an example, I have actually created a queue storage, and in the queue storage, I have also noted down one of the very important message for all the consumers, like, thank you for purchasing our product. Please wait for your product purchase confirmation. Please do not refresh the page. I'm sure you have seen such messages whenever you purchase any product, especially in the peak time. So exactly whenever you see this, it means your information is currently stored somewhere in between, which I mean SQL Server can also do the things for you, because we can use SQL Server enterprise version for that. With the queue storage, we can leverage all the requests coming to the SQL Server. It's stored in the queue, and then it's sent to the server for the processing. Similarly, we can also use Azure Queue Storage for that, and we can store all those of requests is coming from end user, and then once it is been verified by backend, the user can verify the confirmation the product has been purchased and receive the confirmation on the same. So guys, that's exactly the purpose of this table storage and the queue storage. I'm sure you already get the point here, why we are using these two different kind of storage as well. I'm sure after watching that practical, you definitely understand and gather the difference between queue storage and table storage. So basically here in the theoretical part, actually I would like to mention the same thing which we have already discussed, that if you talk about the queue storage, it's actually a service which actually stored large numbers of messages, which I just show you that what kind of messages you can share with your consumers and customers in case your backend server is busy to process your data. Similarly, durability across large workloads. Obviously, the queue storage are only and only used in one situation where your server is currently busy to do other stuff or processing all sort of requests received in a recent time. And if you talk about the table storage, exactly which I mentioned already, it is a service where it stored a structured NoSQL data in the cloud in the table format. Don't forget that. And of course, it's a key attribute store with a schema-less design. Obviously, because we are not using a structured SQL server here, or you can say a SQL server at the moment. So we are using NoSQL. So it's actually a schema-less design, and it's a very, very great tool to use it in case if you need to add and store those information, or in case you need to fetch those information. Again, it will be really much helpful for you. But the important thing is the key player here is the developer who can use these both storages and can directly relate to the website or the application you are using. So guys, that to be all for today, and I'm pretty sure you find this video quite informative. And if you like this video, please share with your friends, teammates, and colleagues, because the purpose of this videos to creation here is to make sure you guys are learning fast and gather as much as knowledge you can get from a free training guidelines. So yeah, we can wrap up for the day, and we will see in the next video and try to gather more information on Azure core services. Till then, stay tuned and stay safe. It's a COVID-19. Please take care of yourself. Peace.